Yeah, hello. This is the owner of the property, Milwaukee, Oregon, 97222. I realized that my house went on the foreclosure market and you bloodsuckers just swarmed, just come in for the kill. I get it, okay? You're all so helpful. But listen, my house is not in foreclosure anymore, okay? I got it taken care of. It's not for sale. I'm not going to sell it to some jackwagon I don't even know. So, but thank you for your time. I'd appreciate it if you would quit sending me mail and the phone calls and all that other bullshit you send me. I don't need it. I don't want it. Okay? Fuck.
I paid thousands of dollars in courses to learn what you're basically teaching on your podcast for free. What you're putting out there is so valuable. So, I just really want to acknowledge you, and I definitely send everyone to your podcast.
You were virtually one of the first mentors that I looked up to and started following. You're always one step ahead of the game. So I just wanted to give you kudos and props for that, because lots of people are watching, lots of people are learning from it.
Tucker and the whole TTM crew, Dan and Chris, thanks so much for your support. I love what you guys do, and a huge, huge fan. Having this support's huge. So I'm grateful for that.
What's up, everybody out there in listener land? It's episode 269. Is that a niner in there? The Real Dealz podcast. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Tucker Merrihew. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode. Hey, I was going to have an awesome interview this week, but it got pushed to next week's show, and you guys are going to dig it, because it's an individual that I look up to from afar. He's got an awesome business going. He's doing some really cool stuff, very multifaceted, and I won't tell you who it is and what it is, but I can tell you what, you guys are going to enjoy it. And really, I was going to potentially skip this week and just drop an episode next week with this interview, since it's kind of a short week and it's going to be a bit of a shit show, in the office and whatnot, because we've got, 4th of July on Thursday, which means nobody's going to be working Friday, which means it's going to be a short week, and you know how that goes, right? But I thought, you know what? There's a topic that's very relevant to not only some conversations that I've had on coaching calls this past week, but within myself as well. And so I always like to try and record these episodes when the topic is very relevant, and it's something that not only I've been talking about, but something maybe I've been dealing with on my own end as well. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy it. And what I'm going to talk about is fear, right? This business is filled with it. In fact, that's probably the biggest thing that holds people back. But we'll dive into that here in just a second. It'll be a quicker episode, but hopefully you guys will get some value out of discussing fear. Now, before I get into that, a couple housekeeping items. Number one, our Driving for Dollars app. We've got a new tier out. Some of you guys have been asking for more than 1,000 pulls a month of skip trace Driving for Dollars leads that you can pull through the app. So we've bumped it up to 2,000. That's the max that we can do, because the iTunes store does not allow a subscription app to charge any more than what it is that tier charges. So that's the limit. That's what we got. Now, it will help those of you guys that are pulling that many Driving for Dollars leads in any given month. It obviously resets at the end of a month cycle, so then you can pull another 2,000 the following month. And the reality is you probably don't need to pull more than 2,000 in any given month anyway, because you got to then market to these people, right? So you got to spend money to market to them, or energy. So market to the ones you got, and then build out more as time goes on. We've got a list of about 27,000 Driving for Dollars leads in total, and we've been adding to it for years. So, that's just where we're at. So everybody's business is a little bit different, but just a little food for thought. Now, on the flip side, if you are generating massive amounts of leads Driving for Dollars every month, or you want to, we have a new tier that we're putting out as well. And this tier is simply a list creation tier. So we're not going to be running skip tracing through the app, through the iTunes store, but we will be able to skip trace for you outside of that very easily. All you got to do is export it to us and we can skip trace it, or you can, export it to your favorite skip tracing company or yourself, depending on if you have in-house skip tracing, whatever it is. But it's basically going to be a tool where for $20 a month or thereabouts, you can use the technology to do Driving for Dollars. You You create the list the same as anything else. It just doesn't skip trace within the app. Now, the beauty of this is that you can have all your team members on your account. You can have your Uber drivers, your Lyft drivers, your mailmen, whoever it is that you're relying on to send you crappy properties. They can be on your account. They can create lists, and at any given time, they can either export the list directly to your email, or you can log in and you can see the list that they created, and then you can track whether or not you've ever bought the house that they've put in there on the list. And if you have, then you can pay them. And, money makes the world go round, and money makes bird dogs keep delivering you leads, right? So anyway, that's what's coming out. That should be out this next week. We had a couple of snags in the new build that got released this week, so Dan's working through them. And then after that, we'll have it out for you guys to use. So we're pretty excited about this. We're keeping the cost very low. We don't have data costs, so we can offer it to you guys very cheap. And it's just an awesome tool. I mean, think back 5 years ago. These things didn't exist, right? So it's been a big change in our business technology-wise, and this will be a very cost-effective way for you guys to do driving for dollars, and then you can skip trace outside of it if you want to. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is our REI Deal Generator program. For those of you guys that set up calls with us, I want to thank you. The program is filled. This round, it's a wrap. We're putting a bow on it, and it was awesome to talk to all of you that I did. It's just cool to chat with people and see where they're at in their business, see what they've got going on, see what they need help with, and see if they're a good fit for the program. So it's a wrap this quarter. We're filled. We're at capacity. But if for whatever reason, maybe the program, the investment was too much for you, or the timing wasn't right, or maybe you're looking for something slightly different, you can always reach out to us about our Deal Finders Academy, which is our online mastermind group, which is full of some awesome investors from all around the country, literally every major metro from all around the country. And we're looking to add more people to that and continue to make that as flourishing as a group as possible. It's been around for 5 years. We've got some awesome members, as I've said before, and just really some smart people, some great interaction, and it's a super cost-effective way to be a part of a group that's doing big things in this world of real estate investing. So reach out to us, and we'll see if we can fit you in there, and hopefully we've got room in your market. Like I said, we don't stack people directly on top of each other. So that's housekeeping items. As far as what's going on with me and TTM this week, I'm sitting in front of our $3.5 million spec home here that we're building in Dunthorpe. We've got drywall going on. Guys are drywalling the garage. They got pretty much the main floor done, most of the upstairs. We'll be mudding and taping this next week. And after that, we'll be getting to surfaces and all that fun stuff. So the house is really starting to come together. I think we're going to be listing it sometime in July, probably mid-July, something like that. We're getting some renderings done, some really cool renderings of the inside that basically can show the design selections that we have for the kitchens and the bath. And we're getting a new rendering done for the outside. We'll have some floor plans. So we're going to pre-list it. Not something we do often, but with the right renderings, the right listing material, floor plan, and just at a certain point of construction, it makes sense, especially on a price point like this. We'd like to get it sold as quickly as possible, of course, since it's such a high dollar home once we're done with it. And we want to capture people's attention. This is going to be an amazing house. So we'll probably list it somewhere around mid-July, and we'll probably list it for somewhere around $3.5 million. Give or take, of course, but I'll keep you guys posted on how all that goes. On another front, we've got a bunch of geotechnical work that got done this week. If you guys are in our DFA group, you probably saw I posted some pictures. We did some infiltration testing. We had our geotechs kind of finalize their plan for our view lot that looks over Lake Oswego, and we finally got a plan. So we're going to get the city to sign off on everything, and then I think we're going to just sell the lot to somebody who wants to build their dream home there. It's been a long journey. Anchor project and a half, we'll call it, but fortunately the area has matured a lot around it, and that pretty much saved my bacon. We'll call it, right? There was a house on it before I tore down. Probably should have left it and rented it out while we figured all this out. It was a really, really shitty house, but should have left it there, should have rented it out. At least would have got some income from it instead of just being land that just costs every month. But if we get to the other end of this rainbow, we'll have a tidy profit attached to it still, just selling it as the lot. And somebody asked me, why don't you build the house that was in our Deal Finders Academy? And I wanted to kind of explain it here on the show as well. And the reason being is because there's literally no other views on this street that are left. When we bought the lot, there was a number of views that could be bought. And it's basically a panoramic view of all of Lake Oswego. And over time that we've been dealing with the geotechnical issues and kind of getting the city on board with the fact that the lot's stable and that we can build it, all those other views have been bought up and they've been built out or remodeled or redeveloped. And so literally we have the last view on this street that you can build a house on. And so the additional money that we could make building and speccing a house to then sell is very minimal compared to what we can get, just selling the lot. Somebody will pay an extreme premium for that lot just to then be able to build their dream home on it, which is essentially good for us, right? So in any normal world, generally people pay what the lot's worth, and then they factor in construction costs, and they want to make sure that they're at least not going to be running a negative after they build a house there. In a situation like this, where there's this amazing view and it's the last one left on the street, people push the envelope there on what they're willing to pay. And so that's why I've made the decision that we're just going to sell this lot, because very few times do you have a piece of dirt where you get such an extreme premium, or when somebody builds a house, they'll probably have negative equity in it, but they're okay with that because it's going to be their dream home and it has a view like this. So that's why we're selling a lot, and that's what we're going to do. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. Bunch of leads coming in. We got a bunch of offers out right now, which is why I'm going to talk about this main topic of fear. It's been a while since we've had this many potential offers out on the table right now. I will see what comes back and actually gets accepted. But we've got a lot going on. We've got a variety of different ways that we're generating leads that are coming into the business these days. Pretty varied. A lot of network marketing, a lot of direct mail marketing, a lot of layered marketing, and all that together has just created a ton of lead flow for us as of late. So that's pretty much what's going on with me, TM, over the last week, as well as our housekeeping items and everything else. So without further ado, let's get into the main topic, and we'll talk about fear.
All right, Real Dealz podcast listeners, I want to talk quickly about our show's sponsor, Iron Bridge Lending. If you guys have not reached out to Iron Bridge already to talk to them about funding some of your upcoming flip projects, I highly encourage you to do so. I've known the owner of Iron Bridge for a very long time. I personally borrowed millions of dollars from them over the years to do a number of different projects, and I can say without a doubt, they are the best hard money lending company I have ever come across, and that is the reason why they are the sole sponsor of this show. I've had a lot of other companies reach out to me and want to sponsor this show, but I just won't do it. I feel like I need to be genuine in who we have sponsoring the show, and it needs to be somebody that I've personally done a ton of business with. So I personally vouch for their ability to be the best, hands down, in the world of hard money lending. You won't find better programs, you won't find better terms, and they're lending or will be lending in over 20 states. So chances are, if you're hearing this in whatever state you're in, it's definitely worth it to check out their website, reach out to them, see if they're lending in your state, and if they are, I would absolutely encourage you to do business with them. Another very cool thing to note is that they have a program for most rehabs where you can actually borrow up to 90% of the purchase price. Now, this is given the fact that you are actually buying a deal, which if you're listening to the show, that means you probably are. But if you have an actual deal on the table, they'll fund up to 90% of your purchase price, and they'll even give you rehab funds on top of that, which means that it only takes 10% down to get into a project, which is unbelievable in the hard money world. So do yourself a favor, reach out to Iron Bridge Lending, have a conversation with them, see if they're a good fit for you and for your next project. I can guarantee you that you'll be happy that you did.
All right, guys, main topic time. I love to say that. This week's main topic is something that really is what gets in the way of everybody that doesn't make it in this business, and it's fear. So I guess it's a four-letter word, F-E-A-R, right? Fear, four-letter word. Could be another four-letter word, but we'll call fear a four-letter word because it's kind of a bad thing. It's a thing that paralyzes a lot of people. It's the reason why so many people never change their lot in life, right? They never climb any proverbial success ladder. They just don't. They just stay stationary. And the reason they're stationary is because they're petrified by fear. They have their little comfort zone of how they like to go through life, and they rarely deviate from that comfort zone. And when they do, it's like, oh my God, I'm so uncomfortable. All I want to do is retreat back to that comfort zone. And that's how most people live their life. That's just fact. And that's why so many people are, I don't know what the stats are, but there's a ridiculous percentage of people that are 2 weeks away from going broke, right? Now, that should make you feel like you're way out of your comfort zone, but most people exist there and they get used to it. And I'll circle back as to getting used to things, why that's important. But they get used to that and they feel comfortable there because they're living their life that doesn't change the way that their financial position is. And they don't want to do anything that makes them uncomfortable for long periods of time or makes them uncomfortable at all. So fear is a big driver, not only in this business, but in life. Now, in this business, it's probably the biggest thing that derails people by far and away. You know, with all the coaching that I've done, the one-on-one consulting, the mastermind group that I've ran, you know, the biggest thing that prevents people from having success is fear. Now, that fear could start with the fear of spending money on marketing, right? And getting an ROI on the money spent. Could be the fear of joining a coaching program or joining a mastermind group and getting an ROI for the money spent. Spending money is a huge fear that people have. But another big fear that they have is actually just taking action and seeing this whole thing work, right? So, for example, just so I can be relatable to you guys, you don't think that, you know, I'm on a pedestal here or I'm any different than you guys, but, you know, I bought a lot of property from 2003 to 2008, and I bought it with the intent of either renting it or living in it, right? For the most part. Now, I turned over some of those that I rented and made a profit, which was a nice thing, and it kind of opened my eyes to this whole thing called, you know, flipping real estate. But in 2008, I started making offers on REOs. And I still remember the first offer that we got accepted. I'm walking out of the gym from playing basketball. I get an email from the agent at the time who had submitted the offer for me. And the email said, "Holy shit, they took it." And I remember the feeling that I had. Even though this was like a no-brainer price at the time, we still backed them down quite a bit, actually. But even if we hadn't, it would have been insanely cheap. It was like they accepted like $120,000 for this property. It's probably worth, I don't know, $399 now. So it's it was a no-brainer. But back then, you know, the market wasn't super hot. Well, it wasn't hot at all. We were in the bottom of the bottom, or the beginning of the bottom anyway. And it was scary. It was scary out there. And so I got that email. And even though that was the turning point for everything for me in terms of getting into the world of actually flipping real estate and investing in real estate as a professional and not just a hobbyist, it still caused a ton of fear. It scared the shit out of me, to be honest with you, because then I started thinking in my head, oh shit, I got to come up with the money. Oh shit, I got to do the rehab. Oh shit, I've got to sell this thing. Oh shit, I hope I make money. All these things, right? I still remember the fear of that. And that was a huge thing. Now, here's the difference between what I did and what most people did. I accepted the fact that there was fear there, right? But then I continued to move forward. And that's what most people don't. They see the fear and they run away from the fear instead of running towards it. All right, here's another example of fear, right? That maybe some of you guys have felt over the course of your career. Starting an office, right? A friend of mine, one of our DFA members, Jimmy too, he posted a picture online yesterday signing a lease for office space. And it was a big moment for him because to that point he had been a solopreneur without an office and without a team that works in that office, right? Well, to take on that responsibility, to take that step, that's a lot of fear. And a lot of people are paralyzed by that fear. That's why most real estate investors remain small solopreneur operations, because they are afraid of taking on that additional responsibility. They do not want it. I still remember when I opened my office in 2005. I was scared of that as well, because I had to, I was adding up in my head all the costs of, lease and utilities and printer and everything that goes into it, right? And then, of course, I've got staff in that office as well. And at that point, I had a processor that was going to be on salary and bonuses. And then, I had loan officers that were basically straight commission. So it was an easier way to have an office with less overhead, we'll call it. But now I have an office, and there's certain overhead that comes with it as well, have for years. But that office, that responsibility, that scares a lot of people. And so a lot of people never grow their business because they do not want to take on the responsibility of having those things. So again, fear, it dictates what we become in a lot of ways, or what we accomplish, because we're so afraid of certain things that we don't go in that direction. I went in that direction. Jimmy did, so congrats to him. Some people don't want an office though, and that's fine too, but that's just another example. Last example I'll give you is, when you get a bunch of leads that come in, sometimes people have analysis paralysis because ultimately they're afraid to make an offer on the property. Because if they make an offer, then that means they might actually have to buy it. And if they might actually have to buy it, then that means they got to come up with money for it. And if they come up with money for it, then they got to buy it, and they got to do stuff to it, and they got to try and resell it, and they got to make money. So a lot of people self-sabotage because they're actually afraid of buying the property. I would say that's a big thing in this business. You know, most people want to go through the motions. They want to go to the seminar. They want to hear about how they should do stuff. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to making an offer and pulling the trigger, deep down they're afraid. And, you know, that's where a lot of mentorship comes in, though, because having somebody kind of look over your shoulder and tell you you're doing the right thing and yes, it's a deal, I think that provides a lot of value to a lot of people, because there's a ton of fear attached to that. Am I making the right decision? Am I paying too much? You know, is this the right play? So that fear, though, can be crippling, right? It prevents people from achieving their potential. So fear is a big thing. It's something that, you know, many of you guys have probably dealt with. I deal with it internally all the time, you know. But the one thing that you have to understand about fear is that it's what creates growth, right? If you don't feel that fear, you know, you wake up, here's another example, right? You wake up in the morning, right? And you think about whatever your biggest problem is that day, right? As you wake up, the last thing you want to do is tackle that problem. You just want to be like, screw it, I'm not even going to do it, right? That's just human nature, because your mind's not up and going yet, and you're just not kind of in battle mode, and you just want to kind of be like, oh, I don't want to deal with that, right? Well, you could do that, and a lot of people do that their whole life, but you're never going to advance the puck. You're never going to climb the proverbial ladder. You're never going to achieve your potential. You have to embrace fear and understand that if you're feeling fear, right beyond that is growth. And that growth then becomes all kinds of success down the line. Now, not to say it's not going to be a bumpy ride, and not to say you should just be an idiot, and if something scares you, you should do it. I'm not telling, you know, that you go look off a bridge and say, oh, it scares me to jump off it, I'm going to go jump. Not that at all. But hopefully you get what I'm saying, is that if it scares you, it means you're pushing your boundaries. And if you're pushing your boundaries, it means you're growing. And if you're growing, that means ultimately you should be getting more successful. So anyway, that's what I got for you this week. Nothing happens in your comfort zone. Everything happens on the fringe, or nothing great happens in your comfort zone. Everything great that happens on the fringe. And that fringe is fear, right? So if you're starting to feel that little bit of fear, overwhelm, uncertainty, you know, waking up in the middle of the night, not sleeping well, all those things, that means you're pushing the envelope. It means you're growing as a person, means you're growing as a business owner, and it means you're getting better at what you do. So that's this week's show. Before I leave you, though, I want to leave you with a quote. And this quote is from Mr. Bruce Lee. Looked at a few of his quotes lately, and this is a good one. His quote is, knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. All right, guys, that wraps up this week's show. Get out there, get after it, and I'll see you all next week.